The reason you're not moving forward is because you really don't have any motion. Let's talk about motion. What does that mean? Motion, in my opinion, is this ability to get up and go, right? To get up, do what you say you are going to do, right? That to me is motion. It's really about movement, right? A lot of you guys are stuck because you don't have any motion. And that's really as simple as that. What I want to talk to you today is about how to develop motion, why it's important, and how you can apply these lessons to your life to get to the space where you really want to be, right? I was reading some quotes and I'm going to talk about each one of them because I think they really apply to the discussion that we're going to be entering into today, right? The first is that standing still breeds rumination and seeds of self-doubt. Motion fuels progress and elevates efficacy. There's this notion that you are basically, in your mind, you have this thing that you want to do, right? This thing that may seem almost unattainable because you've never done it before. And so what oftentimes happens for a lot of us, myself included, I have been here, is I will have an idea of something that I want to do. And along the way, I will just continue to think, oh, well, if I do this, what if it fails? What if I put out that video on this channel and no one watches it within the first 30 days? Then I'm disappointed. Then will I ever want to do another video? Then will I ever get back on this channel, and will I let this channel go by the wayside like I did before? Now, I did have my reasoning for not jumping back on this channel when I did, mostly because I had experienced the death of one of my best friends and I didn't know what to say. I didn't feel like myself anymore. I wasn't doing the things that I'm doing now to ensure that every day I'm showing up for myself because I was so lost in grief. And that's the reality of it. And in life, you will have those moments. However, at a certain point in time, what you have to also realize is even in that grief, life is still moving forward. And you still need to be in motion, right? When we talk about motion, it's about moving forward with an idea, with a plan, because it is in your heart to do, right? It's not necessarily about just doing any and everything and being a busybody, because who has time for that? We're talking about focused action and inspired action, in my opinion, right? So again, it starts with self-concept, as we've been talking about. I am because I think I am. If I think I'm a writer, then I'm gonna move as a writer does, and I'm going to write. That is the motion that we're talking about. But when we lack motion and we just wish for an idea and then we don't truly believe that we can accomplish it, then we don't move forward, and that brings self-doubt. And the more you begin to ruminate on all the things that can go wrong, then you really won't ever develop that motion because you're so busy ruminating and thinking about the things that could potentially go wrong instead of telling yourself all the things that could potentially happen when it goes right. Just because it hasn't happened on the timeline that you think it should doesn't mean that it's not in motion, because you are the motion. You're just showing up every day doing what the writer does. I use the I emphasize writing because that is a big thing for me this year, because it is something that I truly love. And it could be anything. It could be doing videos on this channel that we're talking about. It could be screenwriting. It could be talking about me picking up a book and saying that I'm going to read 2 books per month. Now, I've got to have the motion. I've got to sit down and actually do the things, because if I'm telling myself I'm a reader, then I've got to read. But for me also, reading makes me a better writer, right? I say all that to say it is in the doing that we become who we want to be. It's in that motion, right? That motion of moving forward in spite of maybe not necessarily always having all of the answers, and letting things fall into place because we're in the doing, right? That leads me to my next point, which is you don't have to build confidence before taking action. You build confidence by taking action. It's almost kind of like that analogy that says, it's something to the effect of you learn to fly by jumping off the cliff. I've told this story about my dad pretty much letting me go down the hill on my bike to show me you can do this on your own without the training wheels and without me. And if you fall, you will be okay. And ultimately, that is how I learned how to ride a bike. I've been taking that stance with most things since that moment in time. When I first started DJing, I honestly was just playing songs on my iTunes, but people knew that I had an extensive library of music that people could move to. My friends who would throw parties all the time would always ask me, hey, can we borrow your playlist, or can you control the music? And I'd be like, all right, cool. Now, because I was an introvert, it didn't really bother me because it gave me something to do besides interacting with the people, right? At a certain point in time, a friend of mine said, well, if you're going to be DJing and you're going to be calling yourself a DJ, which I really had no plans to do, then he was like, you should probably get some type of board, some type of mixing, like some CDJs, something. And so I did invest in a very small board at first. And then I got a bigger one. But I learned by doing. I just threw myself out there. I was getting paid for gigs before I could even really learn how to mix well. And then I finally worked with another DJ who said, hey, here's kind of how you do that thing that you're trying to do. And that person just came out of the blue and offered to help. And it was probably the best thing for me, because from there, I did everything that I really wanted to do as a DJ. My ultimate goal was to DJ in Vegas, and I did that. I remember the gig that I had that was the next to the last gig that I did, because at that point I was doing some festivals in LA. And the next to the last gig that I did was in Las Vegas. And I remember distinctly thinking to myself, oh, I know this is the end of the road for me, because the gig for me was from 1 a.m. until 4 a.m. And I just know myself, I want to be asleep at that time. I had been in Vegas all day. We drank, we partied, we did all of the things. By the time it was time for me to get to my gig, I was like, I don't really want to be here. But I knew at that point what I wanted to do. But my point in saying all of that is that, you know, I just put myself out there. Even like everything that I've done, I just dove into it before I was actually feeling like I was ready. I wrote my first script before I knew a thing about writing a log line or a synopsis or a treatment or a beat sheet, to really determine what the beats were to make the treatment great, so that the story could be fully developed in a way that studios and networks and production companies want to see. But it didn't stop me. I didn't let this lack of knowledge stop me from doing anything that I wanted to do. I moved to LA on a wing and a prayer, to be honest with you. Now, in hindsight, I would do that differently. But again, for me, it has always been that I've learned best by just putting myself out there and doing the thing. And then as you do the thing, as you're in motion, that is how you develop the confidence that you need to propel yourself forward. So a lot of you guys are looking to start something today, and you've been thinking about it, you've been ruminating over it, you have been sort of asking yourself, how do I get there? Will I get there? Can I do this? And I'm here to tell you that the best way to do it is to start. So if you've been thinking about starting a YouTube channel, but you feel like, well, I don't have, the Sony camera, I don't have the microphone, chances are you have a cell phone. I started my first YouTube channel with a cell phone and made a pretty decent living from just my cell phone. People are doing it, and for some reason, those people who take the opportunity to simply start get further ahead than those who may be actually more qualified, because honestly, God doesn't always call the qualified, but he does qualify the called. So to take it to a religious place, think about the lesson for today in that regard, and I think it will help you on your journey. And the last point that I want to make is to never let doubts about your ability undermine your faith in your ability to learn. And to me, that is pivotal to everything that we've discussed today. You have to have faith that you can pick up a new skill. And I know that sometimes as adults, we forget that. We get so caught up in what we already know, and the fact that we've spent years in, high school and college maybe, or even in a trade school at such an early age, that as we've gotten older, we sometimes forget that there's still more that we can learn. And so I would like to implore to you, to pick up a book, find a resource, find a mentor, find some resource out there that will help you get to the next place that you can get to, and have faith that despite how difficult it may seem to learn what it is that you're trying to do, because maybe you're comparing yourself to somebody else's point Z and you're starting at point A, allow yourself to go through the steps of B, C, D, and all of the letters to get to that point. Have faith in your ability to learn as you're doing it. So my philosophy has always been grow as you go. Grow as you go, and let the motion take you forward. If you guys are interested in self-development, if you guys are interested in leveling up, if you guys are interested in building another life for yourself that looks different from where you are now, then follow this channel, subscribe, hit that notification bell button, and like this video, because it does help the engagement. My goal here is to not only show up for myself every day, but in doing so, I am holding myself accountable to hopefully inspire somebody else. And my thought is this: I am not searching for a specific outcome with this channel other than to help someone on their journey each and every day. And I know that my reward comes from being obedient to this calling. With that being said, I will catch you in the next video.